Oh, hey, it's you again. Mark here, and welcome back to another video tutorial. So we're about to go in deep here and learn everything that you should be doing to get better at art faster than your friends, your teachers, your pets, you name it. So strap on your smudge guards, whip out your digital pen, and sit tight, somewhere safe, 2 meters away from everybody else. Hashtag stay safe. Let's get started. Alright, so I asked in previous videos about what you and everyone else watching would like me to cover in future tutorials, and a lot of the replies and comments I got were touching on slightly different topics, but ultimately boiled down to this question. What should you be doing to improve your art faster? How do you catch up to your favorite artists and turn from being a basic follower to someone people actually follow? It's not easy, but I have some experience on the subject, and I'm going to tell you everything that's worked for me personally. Of course, I tried so many more things that didn't work during my very, very long career, or things that didn't work at all. But that's all time that I wasted so that you don't have to. So we're going to go over 10 different things that you should be doing or keeping in mind to really speed up your growth as an artist, to improve your art as fast as possible. And the list of 10 things is not in any particular order, so it doesn't mean that, the first thing is the most important. It's all important. So the first one is to practice every single day. Art skills are like your muscles, that you develop at the gym. If you're lazy or if you're not disciplined, if you're not working hard enough, you'll stay skinny or you'll lose your gains. Consistency is the main ingredient here. I know it can be very hard sometimes, sometimes you just don't have the mind to it. You have other things that you need to do, whatever. But keep in mind, you don't need to always be creating, like a masterpiece. If you're not feeling creative, you can work on a study that doesn't require any creativity. If you're, if you're on the go or you don't have much time, you can just work on small scribbles and a cheap sketch pad. It doesn't matter. Or you can work on a bigger piece if you feel up to it, as long as you practice every single day. Not only are you going to lose your art gains if you don't, but you also lose motivation, which is a big problem. At least this happens to me all the time. If I don't draw for a period of time, it's almost like I forget to do it. The motivation just completely goes away. But that's bad. And the main way to prevent that from ever happening is just to do art every single day. All right. Number 2, study from reference. This one is pretty simple. If you're not using references while drawing or sculpting, you're not getting better. There's no input of information. Working off of references is the best way that you have to expand your visual library and add more tools to your toolbox. It's not that simple, though. I lied. The most important thing when it comes to studying has to do with how good you are at observing. It's all about observation. Just copying lines or like painting the colors that you see won't really help. You have to make an effort to understand what you're actually looking at. If you notice a muscle, for example, that's you're not familiar with, or you're not really sure where it attaches based on the reference that you have in front of you, find another reference and figure it out. It's that detective work that allows you to store information long term and actually learn something. Blindly copying something that's in front of you is going to have a little bit of an effect. You will still improve a little bit, but the difference is day and night if you actually spend the time to understand what you're looking at. The next one, number 3, is to have the right mindset. Your mindset is like your inner talk, that little voice, that tells you that you can do something or that you can't do something. Pay more attention to it. A lot of people always, I see this in the comments every day, all day long. If you catch yourself thinking, wow, that artist is so good, I'll never reach that level. Well, there's a good chance that it's going to end up being true. It's a toxic way of thinking. And if you keep telling yourself that you can't do something, you'll end up believing it, and it will become the self-fulfilling prophecy. Instead, think of what you can already do compared to others, maybe, with less experience, and try to see the gap in skills compared to more talented artists as a challenge, as a goal to try and aim for. Your mindset is a little bit trickier to change. It's something that is kind of formed around your upbringing. So whether your parents were encouraging or discouraging you from different things, that's going to have a big impact. And so not everybody starts with the same advantage here, which kind of sucks. But the good thing is that you can actually change your mindset if you work on it. It's really, like I said, it's that little voice in your head. And that little voice is not, it's not another person, it's you. So instead of, idolizing somebody, putting other people on a podium, instead try to find out how they got there. Try to get that information that maybe you're missing. What do you need to achieve that same level? What did that person do, that maybe you're not doing right now? And basically just try to reframe your thoughts to go from, wow, I'll never be able to do this, to, okay, if somebody's doing it, it's clearly possible. And there's a good chance that I can do it too if I know how to. And then go ahead and try to figure that out. Mindset is one of those things where, if you get discouraged easily, you're going to have a hard time improving. I can't think of a single friend I have in the industry who gets discouraged looking at more talented artists. It's always the complete opposite. It's extremely motivating for me and for my friends, at least from what I've heard from them, to find someone who's better, showing you the level that you could get to with enough practice. You really, really have to reframe it this way. Otherwise, it's just like you're putting a bunch of walls in front of yourself that really don't need to be there. You got this. All right. Number 4, develop self-awareness. Jesus, man, this is so important. Be aware of the Dunning-Kruger effect and where you stand on its curve. Let's take a look. All right. So this is a chart that everybody on the planet should be aware of. And man, would the world be better off if everybody knew this? So basically, as you can see here, it's illustrating the effect that your experience has on your confidence. Well, you can see here that the less you know, basically, the more confident you feel about something. If you know very little, you have an inflated confidence, and that starts to kind of phase off, as you learn more and more and more. Basically, you start to realize that, oh, there's actually more to this than I thought. And then the more you learn, the more you discover that there's more things that you didn't know and that you'll have to figure out. And then as you realize that you really don't know anything, then your confidence, starts to drop and drop and drop. But eventually, as you learn more and more, as you build up that experience, that confidence inevitably is going to come back. But what's interesting with this effect is that, experts are never that confident about anything. Because even if you're an expert, you know that there's still so much that you don't know. So as an artist, as a person, this applies to every single skill. You have to understand where you are on this curve. If I'm talking about myself, I'm definitely past the bottom of the curve here. So I'm on my way up. I don't consider myself an expert yet, but my confidence, is going up and up and up as I work on my experience. And well, that's why I'm making video tutorials. So yeah, anyways, you have to understand where you stand here so that you can, anticipate what's gonna come. And at the same time, not get discouraged when your confidence starts to take a plunge as you start to learn more and more about a particular skill. It's really important to have, to develop enough self-awareness to allow yourself to grow. If you think you know it all, first, well, you don't, and second, who in their right mind would practice if they think they don't have much to learn? Nobody. You really have to be aware of your own level, and if you don't, well, you can always, ask other people who know what they're talking about, and ask them where you stand, or just stay humble and consider that you don't know much ever, and always stay hungry. Being unconsciously incompetent is not a place you want to be if you're developing a skill, any skill. But yeah, self-awareness, you just gotta have it. Number 5, find better artists and learn from them. And by better artists, I mean not popular artists, I mean better artists, technically better. This kind of relates to the previous point, but more skilled artists have been doing this for longer, and they failed and succeeded many more times than you. Therefore, they have the mileage to reflect upon. They know things that you don't yet, and that experience can help save you a ton of time as a result, steering you away from pitfalls maybe and towards success. The best way to approach this, is to check your ego at the door and approach learning art as if you were a complete noob. The more open you are, the more opportunities to grow you'll have. Like I said though, just try to ignore the social media fame and find working professionals that have had long and successful careers working in the fields you're interested in, and see if you can learn from them. If they have a YouTube channel maybe, or even teach somewhere, that's how you get ahead. Learn from talent, not fame. Moving on to number 6, show your art off. Show it to as many people as you possibly can to get feedback, but of course, without being annoying. Art is subjective to some degree, so it's important to know what other people think of your own art. It kind of goes hand in hand with marketing, and all your usual marketing techniques, like, knowing who your customers are, what they like, and what you should be focusing on to make them happy, to sell them stuff. In this case, you're trying to sell them your art, not really sell them, but get them to stop and stare for a little bit. Of course, I'm not saying to be a slave to your audience and to your fans and just do whatever they want, but consider what people seem to like more and what you also like, and focus on that common interest, the things that both of you find, interesting. There's just too many artists that focus on what they like and completely disregard everybody else and wonder why no one gives, a flying turd about them. Now, I know a lot of you are just a little bit shy maybe, or too insecure to show your art around. And that is completely understandable. But you can't expect to get better if you don't get out of your bubble. A lot of artists are introverts, and I definitely am to some degree. But if you want to improve, you just got to do it. Nobody likes working. At least most people don't like working, but we still all got to do it to pay the bills. So it's exactly the same idea here. I know it can be uncomfortable to some of you. It certainly was for me at the beginning, but you just got to do it. Number 7, do not burn out. So yeah, this one is obviously, that's not something anybody would want. But at the same time, I feel like there's a lot of artists that just are driving right in that direction. And of course, inevitably, they are going to burn out. So then how do you not burn out? Well, it's actually kind of simple. You just have to keep the fun. That's basically the gist of it. Everyone is different. So everybody's tolerance, for studies and for putting in a lot of hours working on art, it's all going to be different. Nobody's the same. And so you might look at somebody else that does like 10 hours of practice every day and feel like you need to do as much. But if you're not like that person, if your brain can't handle it, mine certainly can't. I can't do anything that's mentally intense for too long of a period. So you just got to learn how you work. What can you tolerate? And of course, it's important to always be pushing yourself to improve, right? You need to study, you need to practice, but always, always, always try to sprinkle in things that are fun for you. Things that don't feel like a chore. Learning stuff is never comfortable. Brain hurts. I don't want to put any more stuff in there. Please stop. And it's the same for everybody. But that is, of course, an important part of learning. But you just got to learn to balance this out with other stuff that don't feel like a chore. Stuff that pulls you in, the things that are just way more fun for you. Burning out is really just doing too much of something that you're not enjoying, right? You will never burn out playing video games if you really enjoy that, but you will burn out studying, I don't know, like math classes or something like that. At least I will. So it's just that fun factor. You got to find it, and you got to make sure to sprinkle it generously in your art studies to keep things fun. Next, number 8, keep your expectations in check. Now, this one is a little bit easier said than done, but I feel like it was definitely easier for me back in the days, when there was no YouTube, no Facebook, no Instagram, no nothing. Can you even believe a word like this existed? And so my exposure to good art was kind of limited. And nowadays, it's the complete opposite, right? It's a flood of just insanely good art just at our fingertips. And so I feel like it's easier now for starting artists that don't yet have that confidence built up to be discouraged. But once again, it's really important to understand what's to come, right, in your progress. So at the beginning, nothing happens. There's just nothing. You'll grind and grind and grind for like a year, 2 years, maybe more without ever seeing any results. I mean, you will see the results. You'll be able to tell that you're getting better. But I mean, other people will not pay attention. So you won't be rewarded externally like you see every other artist that are already, pretty popular get rewarded with tons of likes and shares and comments and things like that. At the beginning, don't expect any action. You won't get any. Maybe your friends and family and like close circles will be able to tell and encourage you and take that. You need that boost and confidence. Take those small wins and roll with them. As you practice more and more and more, at the beginning, nothing's going to happen, but eventually things will start to change. And it's for that reason, it's very, very important to stay consistent. If you don't, you will never see any results. You have to stay consistent for those few years where nothing's happening to see the benefits afterward. And so that's what I would tell you. Know that if you keep at it, things will start to happen. And when it starts to happen fast. And it's really exciting. But until you get there, enjoy those few likes that you're getting. Enjoy those maybe like a first share, the first repost that somebody does of your art. Enjoy those first nice comments that people are gonna leave on your stuff. And if anything, as long as you see some sort of increase there, it doesn't have to be drastic, and it won't be, like I said, but as long as you see some progress there, that should be good enough indication that stuff's happening, right? It's moving in the right direction. Just don't expect too much, because you'll be disappointed. This game is a marathon. All right, number 9, and we're almost done. Number 9 is work on projects instead of one-offs. So for a lot of artists, a big stressful part of the art process is staring at your canvas, your blank canvas, and just seeing that white screen just staring back at you while just trying to figure out what the hell you're going to draw. Well, if you work on a project, that should almost never happen. So that's the beauty of this, and this is a big part of my art school program. What I tell my students is to always work on things in the form of a project. I can give you a really good example for something that I was doing on a channel up until recently that I just, I paused, but I used to work on my Chroma Island series, which is basically this big island with different plants and fauna and flora, different creatures, different races all living on there. And so as I start to work on one of the races, for example, I know there's going to be multiple other ones that I need to tackle. And so I always have something to think about ahead of time before I sit down, and that makes the whole process a lot easier to approach. And if anything, that project itself becomes almost like a liability. Not really, but it's something that you started, and so you almost feel like you owe it to yourself to finish, to wrap it up. And it's even better if you announce it publicly so that other people expect something from you, once again, as a really great motivation to keep working on your art. And then the final point here is to compete. So whether it's in a art competition or against your friends, competing always brings the best out of us. There are many art competitions that you can find online, or it can be just like challenges, right, with your friends or with other artists. Because, if you think about it, most records, like in sports, for example, they almost always get broken during the sporting events. So, put yourself in a situation where you need to deliver on a high level to bring out your best. It happens, but, breaking records while just on a regular practice day is kind of rare. So what's the difference here? Well, it's really that additional pressure, that additional adrenaline when you're placed in a spot where you need to compete against somebody else, when you need to show your worth. So this is not something that everybody enjoys, but again, that's kind of irrelevant. I'm just telling you what you need to do to improve faster, and this is definitely one of those. So yeah, that pretty much wraps up the list. So I know this was a super quick summary. It's a summary of what I teach my art school students, but I hope it helps. Maybe you rebalance a couple of things and adjust your trajectory, maybe to maximize your potential. So I don't know, just remember that everybody's different, right? So like basketball favors those with genetics, making them taller. Others will have brains genetically better wired for art. For that reason, the best gauge of your own progress, your own skills, is always yourself. Looking back to a year ago, you can look at others, but don't expect things to be as easy as it might be for them. What I always tell my students is, if you think the art you did last year sucks compared to the art that you can do right now, then you made fantastic progress, and that's awesome, and that's all you could ask for. Imagine you repeated that for another 5 to 10 years. How good would you be then? I guarantee you that if you do, or keep in mind everything we covered today, next year when you look back at the art that you can currently do, you'll be thinking to yourself, man, I used to suck. And all I can hope is that, it's the case for me as well. Oh, there's one last thing, and it's the most important of them all. You really got